The video begins with a close-up of a steaming cup of coffee on a marble table, Christmas lights twinkling in the background. A gentle piano melody plays as the camera pans to reveal a bustling cafe decorated for the holidays. What would you do if you saw someone being judged solely by their appearance? Would you stand by or speak up? Today's story might just change how you see the world around you. If this touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. It was 3 days before Christmas when Maya Thompson stepped into Lumiere, the most exclusive cafe in the city. Snow dusted her worn coat and second-hand boots as she clutched her last $20 in her pocket. The cafe gleamed with crystal ornaments and gold trim, a world away from the shelter where she'd spent the previous night. Maya hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. After another failed job interview, she'd wandered the snowy streets until the bitter cold drove her inside. Lumiere hadn't been her destination, it was simply the nearest door, a haven from the biting December wind. The warmth hit her face as she entered, along with the rich aroma of coffee and freshly baked pastries. The hostess at the entrance gave Maya a once-over, her smile faltering at the sight of Maya's frayed clothing. "Do you have a reservation?" she asked, though they both knew the answer. "I just need somewhere warm for a little while," Maya said quietly. "Maybe a cup of coffee." The hostess hesitated, then gestured toward a small table in the corner. "You can sit there, but we're expecting a full house today." Maya nodded gratefully and made her way to the table, aware of the stares from patrons in designer clothes and expensive jewelry. She ordered the cheapest item on the menu, a plain black coffee, and wrapped her cold hands around the warm mug when it arrived. At 32, Maya's life hadn't turned out as she'd planned. With a master's degree in education, she'd once dreamed of opening a school for underprivileged children. But her mother's cancer diagnosis had changed everything. 3 years of caring for her mother had drained Maya's savings and left her with mounting medical debt. After her mother passed away 6 months ago, Maya lost their apartment and had been struggling to find stable work ever since. The cafe continued to fill with holiday shoppers and business people in tailored suits. Maya sipped her coffee slowly, making it last. She pulled out a worn notebook and began writing job application notes, determined to make the most of her time in the warm cafe. Across the room sat Alexander Reed, CEO of Reed Enterprises, one of the largest technology companies in the country. At 45, he'd built his empire from the ground up, transforming a small startup into a global corporation. Today, he sat alone at his regular table, reviewing quarterly reports on his tablet while waiting for his lunch meeting. Alexander noticed the young woman in the corner, her focus intense as she wrote in her notebook. He observed how the waitstaff seemed to avoid her table and how other patrons occasionally glanced her way with thinly veiled disdain. Something about her determination struck him, the way she held herself with dignity despite her circumstances. The cafe had reached capacity when a group of executives entered, laughing loudly as they looked for a place to sit. The hostess approached Maya's table. "I'm sorry, but we need this table for customers who are ordering full meals," she said, not quite meeting Maya's eyes. Maya looked up, her face flushing with embarrassment. "I understand. I'll finish my coffee quickly." A well-dressed woman from the executive group stepped forward. "You really should have a policy about who you let in," she said to the hostess, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Some people clearly don't belong in establishments like this." The cafe fell silent. Maya began gathering her things, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to maintain her composure. It was then that Alexander stood up and walked across the room. The executives recognized him immediately. His face had been on the cover of Business Weekly just last month. "Excuse me," he said, approaching Maya's table. "Is this seat taken?" Maya looked up, confused. "I was just leaving." "Actually," Alexander said, "I was hoping you might join me. My table is by the window, and I could use some company." The hostess stepped forward. "Mr. Reed, your lunch meeting can wait," he finished for her. He turned to Maya. "I'm Alexander." "Maya," she replied hesitantly. "Well, Maya, would you do me the honor of sharing a table?" The holiday rush makes dining alone rather dull. Before she could respond, the woman who had made the comment earlier interjected. Alex, surely you're joking. Look at her, she's clearly just here to get out of the cold. Maya stood, clutching her notebook to her chest. Is this seat only for the rich? She asked, her voice quiet but steady. Is warmth a luxury only for those who can afford it? The cafe fell silent again. Alexander looked at Maya, then at the woman, and finally around at the other patrons. That, he said, is an excellent question. He turned to address the entire cafe. Is this seat only for the rich? Are we so concerned with status that we've forgotten what this season is supposed to be about? He gestured for Maya to join him at his table. After a moment's hesitation, she followed him across the room, aware of every eye watching their movement. As they sat down, Alexander ordered 2 full meals and fresh coffee. I hope you don't mind, he said. I always order too much anyway. Why are you doing this? Maya asked once they were settled. You don't know me. Alexander was quiet for a moment. 15 years ago, I was where you are now. Broke, with nowhere to go. I walked into a cafe much like this one, just trying to escape the cold. The owner saw me and instead of throwing me out, he offered me a job washing dishes. That job saved my life. He paused as their food arrived. That owner became my first investor when I started my company. He believed in me when no one else would. I promised myself I'd pay it forward someday. Maya looked down at the steaming plate of food before her. Thank you, she said simply. As they ate, Maya told Alexander about her background in education, her dreams of opening a school, and the circumstances that had led to her current situation. Alexander listened intently, occasionally asking questions about her teaching philosophy and educational approach. You know, he said when she finished, Reed Enterprises has a foundation that focuses on educational initiatives. We've been looking for someone to head up a new project, developing schools in underserved communities. Maya's eyes widened. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an interview, Alexander clarified. Based on your background and ideas, I think you might be exactly what we're looking for. The position comes with housing assistance for the first year. Maya could hardly believe what she was hearing. Why would you take a chance on someone you just met? Sometimes, Alexander said, the most qualified people are the ones society has overlooked. Your experience, both professional and personal, gives you insight that can't be taught in any business school. As they continued their conversation, other patrons in the cafe had begun to take notice. A few had recognized Alexander and were discreetly recording the interaction on their phones. By the time Maya and Alexander finished their meal, several videos of their exchange had already been uploaded to social media. The hostess approached their table, looking somewhat chastened. Mr. Reed, is there anything else I can get for you and your guest? Alexander looked at Maya. What do you think? Dessert? Maya smiled, her first genuine smile in months. I think I'd like that. After they finished their meal, Alexander handed Maya his business card with a personal number written on the back. Come to my office tomorrow at 10 a.m. My assistant will be expecting you. As Maya prepared to leave, Alexander had one more surprise. He handed her an envelope. Consider this an advance on your first paycheck, if you get the job, of course. There's enough here for a hotel room until after the holidays. Maya hesitated. I can't accept this. You can and you will, Alexander insisted gently. It's not charity, it's an investment in potential. Sometimes people just need a chance. By the next morning, the videos of their encounter had gone viral. Hashtag is this seat only for the rich was trending across all social media platforms. News outlets picked up the story, and Alexander's simple act of kindness sparked a national conversation about privilege, compassion, and the true meaning of the holiday season. Maya arrived at Reed Enterprises the following day, nervous but determined. The interview went better than she could have hoped. Her ideas for educational reform and community involvement aligned perfectly with the foundation's mission. By the end of the week, she had a job offer, an apartment, and a future she couldn't have imagined just days before. But the story didn't end there. The viral moment inspired Alexander to launch a new initiative through his foundation, the Open Chair Program. Participating restaurants and cafés across the country would designate tables where customers could pay forward meals for those in need. Within months, thousands of establishments had joined, creating safe spaces where people could find warmth, food, and dignity regardless of their financial situation. 1 year later, Maya and Alexander returned to Lumiere Café, now the flagship location for the Open Chair Program. The hostess who had once tried to remove Maya now greeted her warmly. The café had been transformed, not just in policy but in atmosphere. People from all walks of life sat together, sharing meals and stories. Maya, now the Director of Educational Initiatives at the Reed Foundation, had helped establish 3 schools in underserved communities, with plans for 5 more in the coming year. She had hired several formerly homeless educators, giving them the same chance she had received. As they sat at what had become their table, Alexander raised his coffee cup in a toast. To asking the right questions, he said. Maya smiled and raised her own cup. And to finding the right answers. Outside, snow fell gently on the city streets as people hurried past the café windows. Inside, the warmth of human connection transcended the barriers of wealth and status, reminding everyone that sometimes the most powerful changes begin with a simple question: is this seat only for the rich? If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Remember, a single act of kindness can change someone's entire world. Share this video to spread the message that compassion knows no economic boundaries. What would you have done in Alexander's position? Let us know in the comments below.